The brutal demise of Our Motorsports was caused by Kris Wright. Wait. So I actually want to put a bit of thought into why Our Motorsports ultimately closed up their shop after Dover. Look, it is easy to clown on Kris Wright. However, Kris Wright is the symptom and not a direct cause for Our Motorsports closing its doors. The downfall of Our Motorsports is more than just one historically awful season. It is the byproduct of a changing world and economy. So to do a little bit of a TLDR about Our Motorsports, this race team is the life's work of Chris Our. Through his experience running a team in modifieds and ARCA, Our made the jump to NASCAR's version of AAA beginning in 2020. This was perfect timing because Maury Gallagher decided to shut down his Xfinity team in order to focus on his Truck Series empire. As a result, Our purchased the old Xfinity assets from Maury Gallagher in order to start Our Motorsports in the Xfinity Series. As for the driver, Our remained in the GMS family by hiring 2018 Truck Series champion Brett Moffitt. Having Moffitt was a treasure for a smaller team like Our Motorsports, considering that no other team really wanted him. Most of the top tier teams discarded him and his talents as trash. But that was their loss because Brett Moffitt would end up becoming the backbone for the Our Motorsports team in the next 2 seasons. Quickly, Our Motorsports established themselves as one of NASCAR Xfinity's most competitive mid-pack programs. In many cases, they were competing for top 10s and they had 2 top 20 finishes in the owner points. The tangible results from Our Motorsports showcased to the NASCAR industry that they had a promising future. The team's 3rd season in the NASCAR Xfinity Series would see them take a ginormous leap. Our Motorsports picked up 2 new investors, the CEO of the International Championship Boxing, Jeff Fulton, as well as Larry's Hard Lemonade owner, Arliss Vic Reynolds. The latter investor, Our Motorsports picked up due to the fallout of the Let's Go Brandon chant and Reynolds wanting to distance himself from Brandon Brown. With the investments into the team, 2022 was the all-in year for Our Motorsports. Our Motorsports expanding to 3 full-time teams was basically Chris Our pushing all of his chips to the center of the table. The roster he constructed consisted of the 02 car for the 2018 Truck Series champion and team veteran Brett Moffitt, the 23 car for 2021 Cup Series rookie Anthony Alfredo, finally, the new 27 car for Xfinity veteran Jeb Burton. Depth-wise, this was the strongest small team in the entire Xfinity Series. However, there was one key question revolving around the Our Motorsports team in this 2022 season. Was Chris Our being overly ambitious? While the strength in numbers is great, it doesn't matter if the Our Motorsports team regresses as a whole and they have 3 subpar cars. Quickly, Our Motorsports made a statement that they are a quality organization and that they weren't experiencing the growing pains of expanding to 3 full-time entries. All 3 of their cars had some solid runs throughout the season and all finished inside the top 20 in the final 2022 Xfinity Owners Points. Just like that, Our Motorsports had become the best small team in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. So that meant in 2023, it only made sense that the team would fall off? Wait, what? That was the common reaction to Our Motorsports' moves, as Brett Moffitt was released from the team in mid-August of 2022. Meanwhile, Jeb Burton and Anthony Alfredo signed elsewhere for 2023. Our Motorsports returned to being a 1-car team and turned the wheel over to Blaine Perkins beginning in April. The performance of Blaine, Perkins, and Our Motorsports in 2023 was nothing short of abysmal. Their only notable moment was flipping at Talladega. Not even Tom Cruise could save Our Motorsports and cast a special spell on Blaine Perkins to make him a talented driver. Because of that, the Our Motorsports team regressed in performance and had their worst season as a team. With how awful of a season this was, Our Motorsports risked becoming the next JGL Motorsports or JD Motorsports if they continued their subpar performance. In an attempt to change their fate, Our Motorsports would do the completely toxic thing and get back with their ex. Anthony Alfredo was tasked with resurrecting Our Motorsports back to being a competitive mid-pack team. Alfredo did that and then some. In what was arguably Our's most competitive season, Alfredo began the season with 5 top 10 finishes in the first 10 races. That momentum carried into Dover, as Our Motorsports would put the entire NASCAR industry on notice. Anthony Alfredo would outperform RCR's Jesse Love, Stuart Haas's Riley Herbst, and Ryan Sieg for Ryan Sieg Racing to win the $100,000 Dash for Cash bonus. When you look at the number 5 program from top to bottom, Our Motorsports had a competitive short track, drafting track, and intermediate program. It's too bad their road course program completely sucked, because if it was even semi-formidable, Anthony Alfredo arguably makes the 2024 Xfinity playoffs on points. So, considering our successes with Anthony Alfredo in 2024, you know what's coming next. Anthony Alfredo and Our Motorsports would walk separate paths for the 2025 season. Alfredo would be signed by Young's Motorsports, who saw what he did at Our and wanted to replicate that for their growing program. Our Motorsports, on the other hand, had a million reasons why they decided to choose Kris Wright as their driver. None of it, however, was related to on-track performance. Kris Wright had a sour reputation in the garage because he lacked the talent and he failed to take any accountability for his bad driving. Our Motorsports knew exactly what they were getting into with Kris Wright, and that's what they got. In Kris Wright's first race for the team at Daytona, he apparently forgot where the brakes were and just plowed into the back of Josh Bilicki. At Texas, Kris Wright being like, "Oh, I don't know which lane I want to go in," ended up costing Chevrolet teammate Justin Allgaier a victory. His lowest point, however, was the Chicago street race weekend, as not only did he get into a beef with Sammy Smith, Kris Wright and the Our Motorsports team failed to qualify for the race. Kris Wright in 2025 did nothing right. The Our Motorsports number 5 car at the time of their closure was ranked 36th in owners' points. That is 19 spots lower than where Anthony Alfredo had the car in 2024. Meanwhile, you see what Anthony Alfredo has done for Young's Motorsports, and that organization is pushing for a top 20 points finish. Kris Wright has been to Our Motorsports what Hailie Deegan was to AM Racing. After Sonoma, Kris Wright would be released from the team and Kaz Gralla would be in the number 5 at Dover. Unfortunately, in this case, the Dover Motor Speedway would continue to be a noteworthy place for Chris Our. It was a stark contrast in mood from when Alfredo won the team $100,000 in the Dash for Cash, as this would turn out to be the final race for Our Motorsports. So when it comes to the demise of Our Motorsports, it's easy to sit there and clown on Kris Wright. Oh, look at him, he killed the team. However, I will say it again, Kris Wright is the symptom, not the cause. The downfall of Our Motorsports is a reflection of how much the world has changed. In the United States at least, the economy is no longer a labor-based economy. It is primarily a financially driven economy. When you consider that, all of a sudden it makes sense as to why Chris Our made the decisions he made, even if on the surface level they seem completely asinine. Our Motorsports expanding to 3 cars in 2022 wasn't because they wanted to strengthen numbers or they wanted a stronger team. It was primarily because they had brand new investors, which meant that they wanted more race teams, more sponsors, so as a result they expanded to 3 full-time teams. It explains perfectly as to why Blaine Perkins and Kris Wright were brought in to replace more talented drivers like Brett Moffitt and Anthony Alfredo. When it comes to labor value, of course you're going to choose the drivers that are performing better. However, in terms of the overall market, drivers like Blaine Perkins and Kris Wright that have massive funding behind them are much more valuable in a financially driven economy. Chris Auer was just trying to navigate this financially driven NASCAR garage the best he could. You also have to keep in mind, this is not the 1990s or 2000s where the race teams often had more leverage over the drivers that they could put in that seat. Due to the economy being shaky and major sponsorships drying up, the drivers nowadays have way more financial value compared to the teams who are just trying to get any sort of money to fund the team. So, to sum things up, the downfall of Our Motorsports is more than just Kris Wright existing. Our is a telltale sign that the world and the economy has changed, and as a result, the NASCAR landscape looks completely different.